OK, back to domestic politics now. And in a major speech in the next hour, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer will promise a decade of national renewal if they win the next general election. But the party will not be getting its big government chequebook out again.
Yes, Labour's response comes after Rishi Sunak made his 5 promises on issues including NHS waiting lists, boosting the economy and migrant crossings in a keynote speech yesterday.
The question for both Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak is how deliverable will these pledges be? Well, GB News economics and business editor Liam Halligan joins us now. So, Liam, let's go through the points on the economy first. Halving inflation, growing the economy, cutting national debt. Is that possible?
It is possible, and it's almost certain that it will happen. Rather than testing himself and setting himself up for failure, I think with these tests, and this isn't a partisan point, Rishi Sunak's almost guaranteeing his own success in his own terms. You know, for instance, you know, the most commentators, including me, think that inflation by the end of this year will be at least half of where it was. The fall will be that considerable, down from about 10, 11% to 5 or 6%. That's almost an arithmetic inevitability. And Rishi Sunak says he wants to have national debt falling as a share of GDP. But then if you drill down into that pledge, not what he said in the speech, as Tom Harwood and I did yesterday, it turns out that's within 5 years.
Right.
Well, even the Bank of England and the Budget of Office Responsibility, at their most gloomy, think that debt will be falling as a share of GDP within the next 5 years. So I don't think there's much here in terms of, you know, putting his neck on the line and saying, I'm really going to go the extra mile here.
I suppose what's interesting, a lot of commentators are making the comparison that both Rishi Sunak and today we're expecting Sir Keir Starmer to really be battling it out for the centre ground. And this announcement that we're getting on the front of the Telegraph this morning about how they're no longer the party of big spending will be really interesting.
It will be. I mean, Rachel Reeves is very careful to say, I don't make unfunded spending pledges. You know, taxation is already at a 70-year high as a share of GDP. So I think even quite moderate voters, they might not say it to their friends, but they'd be quite alarmed if the government was going to get even bigger and the tax burden was going to become even bigger. I think listening to Rishi Sunak yesterday, I was transported back to the mid-1990s when I was a young political reporter watching Tony Blair, when Labour brought out their 5-point pledge card, which is a very effective campaigning tool. But the 5 pledges for Labour at the time were genuinely revolutionary. I don't think the pledges that Rishi Sunak made yesterday are genuinely revolutionary at all. You know, we want more innovation. Well, everyone wants more innovation. I was astonished, actually, as people come into the new year with all kinds of concerns about how they're going to pay their electricity bills, how's their kid going to find a house to live, let alone to buy a council house. There was nothing at all on housing and very little on energy prices in that speech yesterday.
Yeah, there were lots of criticism that it was a bit tone deaf, weren't there?
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask you, because I saw you wrestling with this topic on Nigel's show last night. Why is it that energy prices, in terms of crude and gas, are at pre-Ukraine war prices, yet we're still paying through the nose? When are prices going to come down?
I mean, I think the media should be absolutely fixated on this question, with all respect, rather than, well, whatever. What do I know? But I think this is what people really care about. They go to fill up their car or van with diesel, and diesel now is, you know, 174, 175. All right, it was up at £2 a litre in July, but it's 174, 175. Before the war in Ukraine, it was more like 150. But now oil prices are below where they were before the war in Ukraine. Wholesale gas prices, Martin, they're not just lower than they were before the war in Ukraine in February 2022. I've just looked them up. On wholesale markets, gas prices are now lower than any time since October 2021, and yet our electricity bills are going absolutely nuts.
Why?
Because so much electricity we get from gas. That's the reason. Yet, if gas prices have fallen so much, why are electricity prices so incredibly high? The electricity providers will say they buy energy on the forward markets and so on. But it always seems to me that when wholesale prices for gas and oil go up, retail prices, what we have to pay, go up immediately. But when they come down, then retail prices take a long time to fall. Up like a rocket, down like a feather. And I think this is where the media should be focused, because this is what really matters to ordinary people at the moment. trying to make ends meet. And I'd like to see our political leaders talking about this rather than, frankly, quite airy-fairy promises about the future.
On that, I think we can all agree. Thank you, Liam Halligan.